Welcome to Psychic Girls Next Door. We are your hosts, Shannon Miller
and Lili, and this podcast is for all spirituality enthusiasts and psychics next door to share tools, experiences, and spiritual practices that align with your highest vibrational self.
In this episode, we talk about how we started off 2024, our intentions, and how we are holding ourselves accountable.
Ooh.
Yes, accountability.
Sounds like a pretty serious episode.
I know, but accountability can be fun.
Yes.
I think when you have accountability partners, it helps. Something that I've been, I guess, talking a lot about in my workspace because I started a new job in December of last year. So I'm about a month and a half-ish in, or almost 2 months in. And with the holidays, it feels like I just started, but then I feel a lot more comfortable with everybody. And it's been awesome so far. It's been great. And so some of the new things that we're putting in place, having accountability buddies, and I've offered to be my executive's accountability partner for a few things of I'll be your, let's be each other's accountability buddies. And we did a vision board workshop, and then we also did vision boards with a bunch of our friends. I had some people come over to my house, and so I applied what we did at our house in my workspace. And so I was you never know what people are trying to manifest. And so it's nice when you can have someone to be an accountability buddy with. And so that's why it's almost like creating space and then connecting with somebody. And you're not only having to not nag yourself, or if you don't do something, then it disappears. You know what I mean? So that's what you don't want to happen. So with an accountability buddy, they'll be oh, hey, how's your progress? What's new with you regarding X, Y, and Z, whatever you matched on for accountability. Someone in my work group matched with another person on wanting to be more active and exercise more. And I'm oh, perfect. Maybe you two could go to the gym together, or, if you're remote, check in with each other about oh, what have you done to move your body this week? So that it's just a question. And if you didn't move your body that much, there's still time in the rest of the week, if you do midweek check-ins with each other.
Yeah, and it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As much as we want to be accountable for ourselves, sometimes we do need that little nudge.
It's nice to have a buddy.
Mm-hmm. Just a reminder. And we get sometimes so caught up in our own things.
Totally.
Busy, and you get sidetracked.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to have that person.
Yeah, you're my accountability buddy for this podcast.
I think we both are for each other. So
yeah.
That's why it works so well.
Oh, totally.
But I don't think, for me, accountability has been something that it has evolved throughout the years.
Yeah.
Because I look back in my family and how I was raised. How can I explain it? I was raised in a way where you just did not take accountability for your actions.
Oh, interesting.
You learn you would blame others. So it's I would say it's more like a defense mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
right? So things would come up and people would just either shovel under the rug,
Mm-hmm.
or you just kind of deflect and place the blame on someone else. So for me, it was a foreign concept,
Mm-hmm.
because every time something would happen or I had to own it,
Yeah.
I would always find a way to not do it.
Yeah. Well,
I would go the other way.
Especially if it's your shadow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Parts of myself that admitting, for example, that I made a mistake.
Ooh, yeah.
And then I had a very hard time doing it, because what I learned was that even admitting that or owning that meant that you were weak or it was a failure. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of internalized all this information. And then it kind of reflected, of course, in all my relationships, because what happens is people, they don't trust you, or you don't trust yourself.
Right. It starts with yourself.
Yeah, it all starts with you. So you don't trust yourself. And I wasn't very compassionate with myself. I was very hard to, because it created a cycle of like you don't own that information or you don't trust yourself, and then you become your biggest critic, and then
Right.
but you kind of like repeat the pattern. So that was one of the patterns that I had to like really like take accountability
Oh, for sure.
for
Yeah.
the pattern, and then become more aware of it, so I could kind of catch myself,
Yeah.
you know, when it came to pretty much holding myself responsible for my actions.
Yeah.
Because of course it is easy just to like blame like external
Oh, it's
conditions.
because of this or because of that.
No, it's because of this and this person or whoever.
Right. Well, they triggered me, and you
It's
know.
your fault,
Yeah.
not mine. Then to take a good look at yourself and say, you know what? That I had a part in it too. So for me, it was, yeah, so it really evolved, you know, as I became more and more aware of it, and then just taking action towards it also. When I've noticed that I wasn't really taking responsibility for it, then I start calling myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, you need to own this.
Oh, for sure.
You know, own it fully so you can also be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest with myself. And you kind of have to take action too.
You do. And something that I've been like, my goal for this year is to be more consistent. And then, like, so kind of having accountability for checking in with myself on like a weekly basis of like, how consistent were you with whatever I'm doing, whether it's like moving my body, financially responsible, like this concept of loud budgeting that's like going, it's viral. Like, I think that is such a great thing to do, like being very verbal and like open about like, oh, I can't do that, like I'm saving for my European trip.
That's great.
Yeah, like having things like that. And I think being able to like visually see it, like I got the Chani Nicholas planner, the Astro planner, and I've actually been using it. So like, you know, 1, buy the planner, 2, use it, and 3, check it.
Right.
Like,
yes. Make good use of it.
Yeah. I think that's been helpful. But yeah, like what, for someone who is like more free floating, I would say I'm more free floating. Like, and I would say that you're a very grounded person from my experience.
I'm very detailed.
Yes.
Like,
Like
with things. If you meet me,
structured.
I'm very organized.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we all bring a little bit of
Right.
different energies
And I think
into the space.
totally. And I think accountability can look and feel different for each person. So like for someone who is a little bit more free floating and like not as like, you know, structured, what advice would you give for someone coming from you who, you know, you're more grounded in this space or you're more structured? Like, what would accountability look like for you in your realm?
I would say that it all starts with a question: how is this behavior serving you? Mm-hmm. How is this serving and improving your life? Is it making your life harder or is it making more difficult? Because if you need to first acknowledge
Right.
that
If there's an issue.
there's an issue, or if
yeah.
this is becoming an issue,
Yeah.
and how is this impacting everything around you?
Yeah.
Like, does it help with your relationships? Does it make you better at your career? So I think it's just taking an honest look at it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some people might think also that accountability sounds a little rigid.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
oh, it's a responsibility. It sounds like
Right.
it's a little daunting.
Right. It kind of does fall in the realm of like responsibility, but I see it like for self accountability.
Yes.
Like let's, you know, narrow it down and
Yeah.
maybe title the episode self accountability.
Yes,
Like,
that's a good definition too. But I think it all starts with acknowledgement
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
and then kind of work it from there. I think when you kind of can give that, put like let's say, shape it.
Yeah.
So you see the shape of it. How does it look? And for some people, that might look like maybe writing it down, talking to a friend, talking to a therapist, whatever
Right.
it is. And then from there, just like, what are just the tangible things that we can do just to support you in, making yourself more accountable?
Right.
Because accountability is for you at the end of the day.
That's very true.
If you think about it, it's not for others, and it's not other people's responsibility also to make us accountable. And just how, because it benefits, I think it's more beneficial than it is not.
Yeah.
If you look at it.
No, absolutely. Because I feel like when I follow through and I fulfill the things that I want to do or promised that I would do for myself, like when I go on a walk 3 times a week, and like this week, I meditated for a half hour while the sun was shining. So I got my, like, I like to do multiple birds, one stone. Like, if I can, my ideal morning, essentially, that I'm trying to mock up and be more proactive about, is going on a walk before work so that I move my body. I get that sunlight in my eyes to reset or, help with circadian rhythm. And then I, have my heart rate up. And then while I'm on my walk, I am getting fresh air and connecting to nature and feeling kind of like grounded in my body. I've been listening to Nicole LePera's How to Do the Work. So I'm like kind of doing multiple, I like to, what they call it, habit stacking, where I stack those good habits that are going to set up my day. And like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm not consistent every day, but when I do it like 3 or 4 times a week, whether it's morning or after work, or even going on a walk at lunch, whenever I can fit that in, I do feel better. And like by the time Friday rolls around, which Friday is like ruled by Venus, like, so it's all about like connecting with yourself and loved ones. So like, I feel like, I feel proud of myself. Like, I feel accomplished. I feel set up. But like, whatever your goals are is going to look different for you. Whoever's listening to this episode, like, whatever you're trying to set your mind to do. And like, for me, it's like switching my habits around movement. But when I am consistent, I feel good, and I feel like, I'm taking ownership of the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, I think you can also be free floating.
Yeah.
And also take accountability.
Yeah.
Or hold yourself accountable for things in your life. Well, I see accountability a lot as taking control of your life and not allowing like external things to dictate how your day goes or how your emotions or how your mood is kind of flowing on that day. And when you feel in charge of your life, you feel more empowered.
Yeah.
There's a sense of empowerment, like, say, in your case, you've said, I did all these things, so it made me feel good. So you feel empowered. And when you have that sense of empowerment, man, the sky's the limit.
Oh,
if
totally.
you think about it, because then you just want to do more things, not only for yourself, but also for others too.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's this energy.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's just like this energy that you feed on and you fit with. And from then it just like it grows and it matches like everything else that is around it. But for me, interesting that I was thinking about accountability this year. So one of my intentions this year is to be more consistent with my reading.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I'm someone, I love reading, and I used to have the habit of like, I would read like 2 books at once. Like, I'll be reading 2 books at the same time, and I had like stacks of books, and I don't know, like, I would say for the last year or the last 2 years, I kind of fell off the track from like reading, and I still have a stack of books on my nightstand, but it's
TBR,
just like it's like collecting dust.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I looked at the books. I'm like, why am I not reading those books? I love reading. I enjoy even the books that I have. I actually want to read it, but I've noticed that I wasn't make time for that, because you do have to make time to sit down, pick up the book and read. And I asked, well, why? What is the resistance around reading? And I've noticed that I was just making excuses.
Oh,
We all do, right?
Oh, totally.
I'm tired. I'm just not gonna have time.
Right.
All this like weird, strange excuses I was making. And so that was one of the things I was like, you know what? My intention is going to be to read at least, more than one chapter, if possible, per day.
That's a good goal.
Does it happen? Not every day.
Right.
But I'm getting better.
Yeah.
Because as you start looking and feeling the benefits of, whatever it is that you're trying to improve or accomplish, and you start getting to feel, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm enjoying this book. I'm having a great time. And then I also start labeling that as also as my me time. Mm-hmm. The time that I am, receiving all this knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm receiving all this great information. So I think also when you start attaching a lot of, benefits to it.
Like the positive associations.
Yeah. And then you start to feel more encouraged to keep going.
Oh, totally.
Because sometimes, not a lot of us have an actual accounting buddy or, someone that will be, checking on you. And sometimes you kind of have to do yourself.
Yeah, especially for like the morning and evening routines that you're creating or habits you're instilling in yourself. Like for me, I went on a few walks like before work, and my sister wanted to come, and she's like, okay, well, just wake me up and then I can go to the bathroom. And then I'm like, she's in the bathroom for like a certain amount of time, and then I'm waiting for her when I could have just gone. And I'm like, for me, I'm like, that's something that like I just need to do by myself. And I think, and she wants me to be, of course, we're each other's accountability buddies with when it comes to like movement and switching up our health habits this year. And it's nice that she's one room over from me in the house. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to wait for anyone else.
Right.
And I realized that about myself in that moment. And then, so I like took ownership of it and be like, hey, like, I think if you want to come with me, I would love for you to come with me, but you have to do it for yourself. Like you have to be the one to set the alarm and wake yourself up. And if you know that you're going to take a few minutes in the bathroom, like, and to do your thing, like you got to do that, before. And then I need 10 minutes in the morning, like I'm just going to do my thing real quick, brush my teeth, and like, I'm going to wash my face and do my whole care routine after the walk.
Right.
And after I work out. Like, I don't need to, like, be in the bathroom for that long.
And she's, like, the opposite.
She's the opposite. Like, she's, like, a slow starter,
I'm the same way, too.
Right, and that's okay.
And
like,
that's
different
fine.
styles.
So
yeah.
We all have different things.
And there's, like, certain things that people need to do before they leave the house in the morning. And, like, for me, like, I could be dilly-dallying forever, but for me, I'm like, I know that I want to get that sunlight in my eyes before 9 a.m. or before 8 a.m. So like ideally, like the best time for me to go is like at 7 in the morning. But lately I have not felt motivated because it's been raining and there's no sunlight. And the whole point of me in my mind, this is probably a narrative I'm telling myself, was like, oh, I'm going because I can get that morning sun to make me feel happy. And I was like, wait. So then when I found sun, I woke up like a little too late to go on a walk before work a couple days ago, but I meditated in the sun instead. So I chose like another habit that I want to be more consistent with. And instead of like meditating at night, I switched it up. So I got my morning sun. I sat with Zoe, which was another habit stacker of like having more time with my cat before I leave for the office. And so like being able to like connect to myself, connect to my little, soul cat, and being able to like set myself up so that I can be able to serve other people at work, because that's the whole point of my job, to serve other people.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I like too the fact that we can also be intentional.
Yeah.
About what we're accountable.
Yeah.
For in our lives. So, I would say maybe getting the sun in the morning wasn't exactly the goal.
Right.
But I think the intention was to just feel better.
Right.
Or wellness.
Yeah.
Wellness.
Yeah,
Right?
wellness,
Wellness and just getting the, that warm and cozy feeling
Totally.
inside, so you can have and set the tone for a great day ahead
Right.
of you, whether it was the walk or the meditation.
Right.
But it's good to take an inventory in your life and just notice what are the things that you do want to make a change, and how much of accountability do you have
Right.
on those on the things that you want to change.
And how do you talk to yourself internally when you don't end up fulfilling that? Like, 'cause that's something that I've noticed when I've switched up how I speak to myself, but when I go in modes of like having this certain expectation of like doing this every single day, or like for me, I'm like, I know that's not realistic.
You have to set realistic goals.
Yeah, realistic goals.
Because if you tell yourself, "Oh, I'm going to run 1 hour every day,"
right, and then you don't do
and
it.
then you don't do it, then you're beating yourself up
Right.
because you didn't do it,
Right.
and
then that becomes a pattern too.
then you don't do it anymore.
Right, and then you just are like, well, F this, I'm not going to do it at all. And then the whole intention kind of goes out the window. So I think it's like really important to be kind and like create space for yourself if you are trying to switch up new habits for this year, or at any point in your life. But I think that this year, with like everyone's talking about Pluto and Aquarius, like, switching from like kind of like that structured Capricorn, and Lili is a Capricorn, so I can just, yeah.
Well, I can talk a long time about
totally.
all that stuff.
Yeah. And so like being more into like the fluidity of Aquarius, and like, Pluto rules, I think the 12th house of like, the underrealm, the shadow side of yourself. And so, I think it gives us all permission to be a little bit more free floating, and like give us just, make exceptions. And like, if you are someone who's super structured, I am not. So, but if you are, give yourself the grace to mix it up. Try. Yeah.
I have to remind myself of that because I tend to get very caged in this mentality of the black and white, or things have to be a certain way. And there's not a lot of room for things to flow.
Yeah.
When you're kind of so like nitty gritty about things. Or
if you're like wanting something specific, you're only going to be creating space for that specific thing or that energy, or like, nothing else might come in. Something better might even come in.
Yeah. I have to remind myself too. It's okay to get messy sometimes. And for me, that freaks me out. Just like thinking about that. But I do like catch myself. And again, it comes to all self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I catch myself just being like rigid. I'm like, oh, I just need to kind of loosen up a little bit and just kind of take a step back. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Got a little messy. And just talking about messy, I have been going through a situation too with someone in my life where this person takes no accountability for their actions.
That's messy.
That is very, very messy. And that really drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite of me. So my work is to look at, why is this triggering me so much? Why? Because someone operates in a different way, why does it bother me?
Yeah.
So that is also a good way just to kind of look at it. Well, if that is so triggering, so the work is on me. It's not so much about the other person.
Right.
But it was really interesting just to kind of observe how this person like operates. And there are people that just have, they're unaware of how their actions impact others.
Yeah.
And not taking any accountability or responsibility for it. Maybe, I don't know, they were raised that way. Maybe they have no clue about this stuff.
Right.
And that's okay. We're all on different levels of consciousness.
Yeah.
But I can only be accountable for myself and how I react or
Right.
respond to this situation.
Totally.
You know, but it does kind of makes me cringe.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, totally. When you feel yourself like becoming kind of swept up in that current, right? Or the hurricane, or however way you want to describe it, like, and you feel yourself getting triggered, how do you recognize that within yourself? And then how do you like kind of take yourself off that ledge, or, you know, from, you know, pre-explosion or whatever way you want to react naturally, like, or like, how do you kind of talk yourself into being like, okay, everything's fine, like, it's not the end of the world, or what does that process look like for you?
For me, it's just acknowledgement. It's just recognizing, oh, I got triggered, and not be too harsh on myself because of that.
Yeah.
But again, this comes with a lot of inner work.
Oh, yeah.
Just, you know, I just don't want people to think that it comes naturally, because, man, we're humans and we are gonna get triggered.
Yeah.
But it comes with a lot of meditation and healing work just to kind of get to that point where I recognize it. And you have to take a deep breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that deep breath, like, okay. And then just slow down.
Yeah.
You have to slow down, like, okay, let me just take a breather, reconnect with myself, and then decide how do you want to respond to that. You know, I think it's all on that moment where you pause, because a lot of things, because there are consequences to like the way that you react.
Absolutely.
But it's just I think how you shift the energies, how you respond to all the situations. Even like when you catch yourself like, oh, I think I kind of slipped on this thing. And that's, to me, it's also just recognizing that you recognize the pattern.
Yeah.
And it's accountability.
Totally. Like, oh, I need to like tighten that up a little bit, or pay more attention to that.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe I didn't run today, but you know what? I woke up today. Even if you exercise at home,
right?
It might not be the actual run, but
totally.
Again, the intention is wellness. I want to feel better about myself. I'm just going to create some movement in the house. That is still being accountable. And again, it's going to look different for everyone. It's not about like being so, like a mean boss to yourself.
No, you don't have to like crack the whip or anything.
Yeah. I think accountability to me also sounds a lot like creating boundaries.
Yes.
If you think about it, it's creating boundaries for yourself.
And a routine, or just like, and also like checking in with yourself on like, what is the reason why you want to do this? And you have to have that desire, that like kind of that initial spark of curiosity or interest in learning. So I started recently taking ice skating lessons.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and I've always wanted to, like, since I was 4 years old, I wanted to go to the Olympics, and I wanted to be the next Shannon Miller in the Olympics. And, if you're not familiar, Shannon Miller was a gymnast in the Olympics, but I wanted to be the figure skater version. And my parents, didn't take me because, one, we couldn't financially afford it, and two, the rink was an hour away. So my mom didn't want to drive an hour each way, which at this point as an adult, I don't blame her, because that's a lot of effort. And, when you don't have that like space to do that. Yeah. Like, so now it's been really healing for my inner child.
Well, now that you can do it,
I can buy it myself.
Yes,
and it's
but now it's like your responsibility.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And like, I've made a couple of friends. I'm doing it for me. And it's been so mentally rewarding, and it's like fulfilled this childhood dream of mine, and then I've had a lot of like anxiety and like just feeling nervous about, will I like fall and eat shit like every time? And no, I'm actually like, we're all getting good, which is kind of crazy. Like when I think about it, because it's like when you've had this like idea of something and wanting to do something forever, and then when you finally take action, inspired action on it, and if you have the resources to do so, you'll surprise yourself on how easy it feels. Like, especially if it's meant to be things will feel easy and they'll click and you'll want to keep doing that.
Yeah, when it's something that you enjoy doing it.
Yeah,
So
I love it.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like a chore that you have to do it. So it just flows.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're already talking about like, oh, well, in order to go to pre-alpha, you got to be able to do this. And then one of the girls who I became friends with, and we're only on week 3 at this point. Week 4 is on Monday, and it's an 8-week class. And we're talking about like staying late for like the open session to practice, or going on the weekends because we want to get good enough to like go to the next level. And I was like, I didn't realize that was the goal, but I guess that is the goal, to like keep getting better and improving. So sometimes you can surprise yourself. You might have like this small milestone goal. And for me, it's just to feel comfortable in ice skates and learn how to ice skate.
It's all about the small actions.
Yes.
It's like one day at a time. In your case, one skate
at a time. Yeah. Yeah.
And then just because we all start from beginning.
Yeah.
We all do it. No one, your chapter 1, you cannot compare to someone that is on chapter 50. Mm-hmm. We all have to start somewhere. So it all starts now.
Yeah.
Today.
It starts with you.
It starts with you. It starts in the present. It's not tomorrow. It's not a month from now. It's all about at this moment.
Yeah.
And just, I would say it's this, it's not like a promise to yourself. It's more like about telling yourself that you're worthy.
Yeah.
You're worthy of feeling, a better version of yourself. That you can also, if everyone else can do it, we can do it too.
Right.
Right?
And I think like my theme is to be more consistent with movement in general. And I'm like, oh, ice skating is one of those things that like adds value and contributes to like that larger goal. And it, is minimal effort on my part. Like, of course, in the class, you're like, oh my God, my feet hurt. And like things are actively happening. But then you feel good after and you're like, oh, this actually contributes to my larger goal for myself. And it's part of like that habit stacking, mechanism.
Yeah, but you're proactive too. You took action.
Right. You do have to be proactive. And, whether it's from like reading more or moving your body or maybe meditating, I think slowing down can be difficult for people.
Oh gosh, slowing down has been also one of my intentions this year too, just to like slow down. I even posted a little video on social media about it, and I have to be intentional.
Yeah.
About this because I've noticed that, I went away for the holidays and then I came back and I was just, you kind of feel like you swept into this like tornado or like a big wave and you feel like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And I felt I was already like at December 2024.
Right.
Because the year was just like kind of like speeding through me. And, one day I sat down and I was like, I feel exhausted. I am so tired. And I've noticed like my room was like all the stuff that I didn't even have time to unpack. They were sitting there for like days. And I didn't have the energy.
Right. You're like,
to like,
I'm not interested.
Like,
I can't do it.
This is the last thing that I want to do at the end of the day. And I was like, you know what? No one can do this for me but myself.
Right.
So I had to literally like, clear my schedule for that day. I'm not going to like talk to anyone. I'm not going to go anywhere. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I got up in the morning, decided to go to a cafe that I wanted to go for a long time, take time for myself, sit down, slow down, meditate, and just enjoy it. Enjoy that moment without having to think what I have to do next or things like that. And I know this is not realistic for a lot of people, but just taking that moment.
You have to have time for yourself.
Yeah, because if you can't, then how are you going to function?
Yeah.
So you have to refill your own cup. And that for me was something that I had to just really be intentional about, slowing down and creating that space for myself. Because when you do that, you show up for yourself.
Yeah.
Too.
And that feels really good.
That feels amazing.
And you're like, I want more of this feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then again, like this week, I'm like, oh, I also need to create some more space for myself and so on. So you just kind of like, gradually
Yeah.
and being more consistent about it. And that becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah. And like my goal is to like do things in the morning, like especially movement, because I'm like, this is why people work out before their responsibilities. Like it's literally if you wake up earlier, it's more time for yourself before all of the emails hit, the things you need to respond to, the other people come into your life, the responsibilities of the day hit you. So I think like carving out like the golden morning time or even like the evening time, if you can do that, I think like that's so critical. Yeah, so we hope that you have taken some of these ideas and hopefully they've resonated with you. And if you've come up with like ways that will inspire other people, like feel free to reach out to us, leave us a comment. We would love to know like what are your tactics for taking care of yourself and keeping yourself accountable for your self accountability, if that makes sense. Yeah, because accountability is hard. It can be hard.
It can be. And we can be also accountability buddies.
Absolutely.
Too. So send us a message. We are on social media. But thank you so much for being here and sharing the space with us. And we'll see you on our next episode.
Thank you so much from the Psychic Girls Next Door.